Hello everyone. My name is Jerome Wright, and you're joining me again on my Geronification channel. Um, I have, I believe, about 150 videos here on my YouTube Geronification channel, and each one discloses a remarkable discovery of mine, in which I'm I'm stating in all of these videos that I am paranormally linked to that of everything ancient in our world and and beyond. And and then with this, I'm granted this higher knowledge that allows me to become one with anything that I focus in on, and um, to develop an understanding of how it existed, why it existed, and in which way that I'm, linked to it all. Um, Peru, the Nazca Lines. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to explain to you, and don't mind the little drawings, because as you know that I also have this multi-dimensional sense of awareness and being, and I do not see things in the way that what we describe as being normal people would. When I look at things, I see other things. Meaning, I mean, and even in the lines, I mean, I'm that guy that looks in the clouds and see faces in the clouds. So I'm also that guy that looks in sand and see faces in the sand. So you would expect that not only do I see faces in the clouds, I see faces in the sand, and I see faces on any surface that an image of such might appear. Okay, so let's explain that away. So you can forget about these little images right here that I've drawn in the sand. Okay, they're just my way of connecting to our ancestral um, ancestors that actually came before us. Okay, and in doing so, it opens up my mind and brings me into this area in a almost like a telepathic sense. Okay, and I don't have to be there. And in doing this, all I have to do is just go into my mind to get an understanding of it. And I feel as though that we are all genetically interlinking to that came before us, the beings that came before us, and the knowledge that came before us. And this is how I can continue to make these remarkable videos, through that awareness of us having this ability, which I tapped into in myself. Okay, I like to think of them as multi-dimensional doorways, and through us we can go anywhere, journey anywhere, um, in our own minds. All right, let's go to these Nazca lines. I'm not going to talk. Let's not say these here. I'll go into what expired the larger images. This is the bird um, that is there in the desert plains there. I believe what inspired these images were these images, these lines, who which no one can seem to explain. Um, I believe that ancient alien theorists, they have a new series out describing the Nazca lines as being that of created by aliens. You have those talking about laser technology, and you're talking about unexplainable straight lines that seem to just appear. And then they talk about the energy that's beneath the ground that has magnetic properties. Well, the answer, there's logical explanations for this. Okay? And but there are these people that insist upon taking your head and spinning it off in a direction in space, away from reality that is actually there before you. It's like there's these people. Even even science. I'm going to disprove. Even in NASA, they have something out as well too, relating to this, and I'm going to disprove NASA. Besides disproving the ancient alien theories about aliens created these lines. Alright, and being from outer space created these lines, and they visited us one time or another, and these lines were created. And when I'm done with this video, you're going to be like, wow, You know what I mean? This guy is 100% right. And I mean, was I a fool not to see this myself? And you're gonna be like, why didn't I see this? All right, but again, people, don't blame yourselves, because I am truly paranormally connected and linked, and I can, and in doing so, just follow my explanation of this, and you know what I mean. I'm going to give it to you in the best way that I can. I am a layman's person, and these videos are not scripted that I'm making. I'm just winging it, and I mean, I'm just putting them out there, and I'm human, so I do make mistakes. Okay, so you know what I mean. Just bear with me, and I'm not a science expert or not none of the above. That I wish that I had a team, because they were actually narrators, because they would actually help me explain through these videos a whole lot better. All right, these Nazca lines, I want to explain them to you how they got there. Okay, it's a phenomenon that happens in our world, and I'm going to come in because I'm going to show you another, and that there is the spider-looking creature, and these are other lines that are being made. Now, they say that some of these lines are straight in their path for almost, I think they say up to 6 miles or something like that, or definitely, and they go through mountains and all. These lines, some of these lines, suggesting that there was a laser technology or some kind of higher technology that took place that allowed for, I mean, perfectly straight lines to be made. Well, let me take you on a common sense journey. I want to take you to Death Valley, where the same thing is actually occurring again in a desert. The sailing rocks. See where I'm going with this already, people? These sailing rocks, which originated from here, you actually see floating on their own, creating their own path of travel, creating their own roads, in other words, paving their own way. I'm going to come up some. Wouldn't it only be logical, people? And just all in a few minutes, I explained the Nazca Lines. Wouldn't it be logical, people, that if this is occurring in Death Valley, in the desert, with rocks, then in Peru, the exact same thing has happened in the past, and because the rocks are not there now and cannot be seen, then this becomes something that can be explained away as alien UFOs, or I mean not alien UFOs, as aliens achieve this feat. Magnetic fields of energy are pulling rocks from other locations, neighboring neighboring mountains and neighboring locations across the plains of the deserts, and it explains these straight lines. And in some cases, where there are interruptions in these fields of energies, through that above the surface and that below the surface, we get discrepancies in the lines that's actually being created. Let me see if I can get this right without, as you see here, and then patterns are created as there and here. Now this is Death Valley, and this is Peru. Upside down, yeah, and this is Peru. People, wouldn't that logically explain these lines? So that officially debunks the ancient alien theorists' idea that people from space came in and created these lines, because we have a phenomenon in our world that takes place where rocks move on their own accord. And not on their own accord, there's a energy. And here's another one here. Let me move this back so you can actually see that there. And again, this is a poor copy. Look at how the rock came from all the way over here, back here in this mountain plateau in the back here, and pulled across the desert on energy fields. Okay? Now, that kills the theory with ancient alien theorists that aliens came in and made these lines in Nazca, and the fact that what else was there? There was another logical explanation that aliens came in, and it explains how these lines were made. The rocks are not just there now. What happened is just like everything else that happens in the desert. The moisture is sucked out of this to the point to where the rock dissolves, just like a melting piece of ice. The rock would just disintegrate because the desert claimed it. So it's no longer there no more. So all you have in Peru is just the evidence of the lines, which last forever. You know what this reminds me of being? A giant Etch-a-Sketch board where the lines remain, but the object underneath the Etch-a-Sketch board cannot be seen. Alright, now there's more to this, people, so bear with me. I wanted to go right to that to go ahead and grab your attention, okay? So, a logical explanation for straight lines from one location to the next can be explained away in Peru. In Peru, as being created by an event which has now become ancient, of where rocks were being in a gravitational pull sense pulled across the sands, the desert sands of Peru. And that's how these lines occurred. Now, how did these lines occur, which created and caused for the drawings? Well, that's logical as well too. First of all, these drawings, I know for a fact, represents evolutionary phases of our ancestors. And by the way, people, this is not a spider. I'll explain in another video what that actually is. That's not a spider. Okay? I'll explain that later on in another video. We know what spiders looks like. That's not a spider. I can explain to you, and I'll convincingly show you that that's not a spider in the Peruvian desert. Peruvian desert and the Nazca Line. However, this is a bird because this creature is in our evolutionary becoming into the likenesses that we are today. It is responsible, as is the whale and the other creatures that you actually see there. Even the so-called astronaut and all of that, I can explain that later. I'll do that in another video. This video is explaining the Nazca Lines. It's my position that these images here, the monkey, the birds, and all of these images that were drawn all on it, which do represent mankind's evolutionary becoming into existence and what he is today. It's a grail, in other words, of how mankind was created, and that's what these images portray. Now, what inspired these images to be there? Well, it's my position that not only is this the perfect place to make such a record, because they knew that it lasts for all of not an eternity, but for a good part of it, for a while, for a person to be seen. To find these things. It's not just that. These people, Peruvian people, were inspired to make their record there because they witnessed the phenomena of these rocks being gravitationally pulled across the sand. So imagine an ancient people witnessing a rock moving across the sands on its own accord. Obviously, people, they would equate that with being something of being that with God, that of a divine experience, something that was so to be understood on a massive scale, that they would say, you know what? God is sending us a message. So therefore, we want to send God back another message. And the message to God that we want to send is, we are here, and through this, these creatures and the other ones that they should, this is what we look like now, God. We want to identify with you that we know how you created us, and through all of those different likenesses, they didn't want to miss none of the likenesses that we evolved through. Again, people, that's not a spider. Alright, I'll tell you what that is in another video. And God, please don't punish us. If you don't recognize us as we are, as being humans, which explains the giant man there, then maybe you will recognize one of the other faces that of which you created us. So they'll put this whale there. They put the monkey there. They put the bird there. They put the, you know what I mean? All of these different likenesses were put there to say, hey, listen, God, if you don't recognize us as being human, maybe you will recognize us as being the whale. Maybe you will recognize us as being the monkey. Maybe you will recognize us as being the bird. Maybe you will recognize us as being the dinosaur. You get the picture, people? That's why these pictures were put there on a larger than scale life. These Peruvian people said, if God has the ability to move rocks, that in some cases, there's a record of them being 700 pounds. It's my position that given the right elements, the right scenario presented, then rocks probably even twice as large, maybe 4 or 5 times, 10 times larger than this, can move across desert sands through forces of energy that have yet to be explained, except that by me right now, because I'm going to explain that shortly. You see what I'm saying, people? So these Peruvian lines that appear to run in straight lines for miles on end and then go through mountains, well, wouldn't it be logical that if I'm showing you that the same exact lines in Death Valley occurred from rocks being pulled off the mountain through magnetic fields and sliding, but no longer exist, then wouldn't it actually tell you then that the rock didn't go through the mountain? The rock came from the mountain? Then you say, well, okay, well, it goes over top of the mountain. Exactly, people. If the same energy field that is causing this, it explains all of the other and above. I don't care if this rock was pulled over top of the mountain. Look, pulled onto the mountain, over top of it, and then over again. When you have these belts of energy, people, the force is unbelievable behind them. Do I have to explain that? What better object? It's just like me taking the energy in my hand, taking this pencil eraser and going and pulling that pencil up over there. I can do the same thing. The energy in my body, I can do this by walking this pencil out there in that desert and pulling it across. So imagine the energy levels behind the elements contained there in this rock, the energies beneath the ground and those above, and then caught with and compounded with this energy, this massive energy, this release of energy that causes this rock to be moved. Now, I want to explain, because you say that we have, because I want to bring crop circles into this now. And then I'm going to, the intelligent, like they say, that there's geometrical shapes that might suggest that there was earlier suggestions of geometry shown in the ground at Nazca. And then ancient alien theories go into explaining it being equated with that of crop circles and the geometrical shapes in crop circles that suggest that there's no way that humans could have made these. I agree. You say, what? I agree to this? Through my paranormal experience and encounter, I agree. I agree that no human could have made the geometrical shapes that are supposed to be reportedly seen on the grounds, on the plains, in the desert, in the Peruvian desert, where these Nazca lines appear. I agree. I agree that in the cases where it is impossible for a human presence to make crop circles that appear to have this outer space, dimensional, geometrical appearance to them, I agree. But I also can tell you that there is a logical explanation why those geometrical shapes are formed not only in the desert sands in Peru, or appear in fields of wheat, or fields of a high vegetation globally. Globally. I have a logical explanation for all of this. You want to hear the explanation? Of course, I know you do. The culprit behind making those geometrical shapes. I ran out of ink, by the way. I wish I could put the image of the crop circle up here. That would be more compelling, but I don't have it right now because I ran out of ink. Unfortunately for me, and you, but anyway, just bear in mind with me. Imagine this being crop circles. Okay, in fields of wheat. I wish I had a crop circle up here. I really do, because it actually makes my point more loud and clear. But those of you that have an imagination somewhat like mine, then I guess you can see this as being a crop circle. Okay, crop circle. Here, let me use this as a crop circle. This here is the Drupa stone, an image of the Drupa stone. Pretend with me for a moment, people. This is a crop circle. All right, this is the Drupa stone. Okay, people, the disc, the Drupa disc. Okay, imagine that being I'm just using it as being a circle example. Imagine that being a crop circle. Then the geometrical shapes that are on Peru sands that also suggest a similar phenomenon which happens and occurs in crop circles, almost like a vortex. People, there is only one element on our planet that can describe vortexes on any surface or in any scenario in energy. There is an element that when equated with elements of our planet, water, sand, possibly even fire. I should have Googled that to check that out. When come in contact with any and every element of our world, there is only one element that could create these vortexes. And I equated. Not equated. That's a poor way to actually poor wording, people. I actually have discovered it some time ago to actually create phenomenons in the airways of our space. This element, and it's an element that seeks out itself. It's an element that has a magnetic attraction. It's an element that actually can become in union with other metal alloys, okay, and thrive in existence with those metal alloys. And it is an element that through my paranormal experience and encounter, I say has an intelligent force within itself and its own being. With no further ado, I'll give you that element. You know what that element is? And it's in everything? Mercury. That's right, people. Mercury. It's my position that given the right climate, the right playground to play in, that Mercury can create everything that is being described here and can be explained in that sense, and create vortexes in crop fields. Because you know what, people? This is not a crop circle. This is a Drupas zone. I'm using this as a vortex scenario, as this being a crop circle. Let's say that this was you woke up and this was, I'm telling you that there is the element level of mercury in everything, even our wheat fields, other vegetations in our world, in our rainwaters, in the waters. Mercury is in everything. It's my position that given the right scenario, that mercury is alive. Mercury can create the vortex. Those vortexes that we see in crop circles and geometrical shapes that are in desert sands, everywhere. Now, that doesn't explain the intelligence. I'm saying that Mercury does have an intelligence level of its own. But it's also my position. Follow me, people, because this gets better. It's also my position through my paranormal experience and encounter. Now, I'm not a scientist, by the way, either. I don't want to lose my train of thought. But I'm not a scientist. So how can I come up with these logical explanations? People, I am paranormally connected. Listen, Mercury, I done lost my train of thought going out here trying to pat myself on the back here. Now I lost my own thought there, and I have to laugh at myself for doing that. Mercury, in my mind, is not only on a level of self-control. I believe in everything, in every fiber of my body, and everything that I can feel paranormally through my experience and encounter, that Mercury can be driven by the unknown forces that are contained there in our world. And what better places than these existences through, in my mind, in my sense, dimensional doorways, windows of opportunity that experiences, past existences of our world can revisit us through dimensional doorways. These dimensional doorways, I believe to be a vortex in themselves. In places like the desert, and places where there are high fields of magnetic energy. And the reason why I am stating this is because I'm stating that these fields of magnetic energy are containment rings. What am I talking about? Well, containment rings are everywhere in our solar system, in our galaxy, in our universe, and in the universes, because I've discovered on what level that all of these things that I've just named are functioning. And it's in the behavior of a human being or a living being with a kidney stone infection. Specifically the glomerulus area, where there is a filtration process going on and there is a membrane. But I'm not going to go there because I'm going to get lost in thought again. So I'm not going to go there. If you want to know more on that, see my other videos. Now, it's my position that these existences, that these deserts where death is occurring, because these deserts are a form of cancer on our world that are growing and expanding. And this is where I believe that all of the beginning of death is actually occurred, because this desert, which is now on a plateau of desolation, was once thriving with that of life. This is a cancerous spot on our planet. I believe that it becomes a containment ring, and in this containment ring, this is a comparable to that of being what most would actually want to believe as being hell. I believe that existences are locked in here, in these locations, globally. Not just here, globally. And these existences, through a window of opportunity, through a dimensional doorway, can reemerge from centuries before, even longer, hundreds and thousands of years before. And it is my position that in the movement of these rocks sliding across deserts, that they become pencil tips. Let's go this way, not an eraser, because the marks are being left behind. And it's my position that these existences, in a collective, in a unified way, can control the movement initiated by the gravitational pull of these mercury properties and these magnetic fields. And these existences, which are unseen to us, can draw on surfaces and create images on surfaces, such as that in Death Valley, such as that in Peru, such as that in crop fields, that these energies can get into which would normally be considered, I would imagine, to be a natural event, and they can control the scenario, like jumping into a moving car and driving it and create and say, hey, look, we are here. Look, people, we are here. Not in the sense of aliens sent from other planets. I'm talking about they are already here, and stating that, look, notice us. And I believe that there's been a misinterpretation by our ancient ancestors that were aware of these beings being with us, and they were scared out of their wits. So they did as I said they did. They drew all of these different creatures, and from which we evolved from, and said, hey, look, if you don't recognize us one way, maybe you recognize us the other way. So please don't hurt us. We are with you. This is how we came to looking like man. And that's I don't have the man image up in here of the giant man. These people were scared out of their wits, seeing these stones move across these surfaces, which happened in ancient Peru, with on location at where the Nazca Lines are, and the similar thing could be said here. Imagine us being not cave people, but imagine us being of a far lesser intelligence than we are now, and we go out there and witness this. You would drop to your knees and say, no, God, please, please, no, God. You know what I mean? But with your higher level of intelligence right now, you can walk past this rock moving right below. You'll walk beside it and say, oh, that's cool, and keep on moving. I mean, I'm exaggerating it a bit, but this is not getting the attention that it deserved. And here I come along and equate those moving stones in Death Valley, with a phenomenon that has become so popular in Peru that ancient alien theorists is calling it a visitation from another world. And here I've just explained it away, and we're 33 minutes into this, and almost 34 minutes into this video, and people have been trying to understand this seeming like forever, and here I've put it there. Now, there is a theory on how these rocks got moved. I mean, how did NASA? Now I'm going after NASA now. NASA has called themselves putting the best logical explanation out for why these, a scientific explanation, by the way, to people, of why these rocks move. So now NASA put their thing out there, their theory out there. So now there's scientific backing behind it. So they're figuring that nobody can debunk them on why these rocks move. Now let me tell you what Nazca said is happening. Nazca put sensors in the ground and sensors experts out there for water, for temperature, and all of that. And NASA comes up with this scientific analogy that these rocks are moving because there's a freezing and temperature process that cause them to become, these rocks to become glaciarized with an atmospheric layering of ice, water and ice, and so is the ground. And what happens is, through that process and winds, these rocks are slid across the ground, given the right scenario, almost like sleds through wind and ice. And they also explain that because some of these patterns, the roads that are made, the passages that are made, are larger than the rock, they suggest that what is happening is that this explains that they were covered with that of ice. So therefore, even if you have a rock that is like this size, and then the passage that it made is about this size over here, I'm widening in the road there that it's making there, right? They're stating that it's happening because this rock back here was glaciarized with ice, and by the time it got down to here, it melted off, and that's why the rock seems to be smaller than the path that it left behind itself. Alright? Sounds logical, right? And I don't think that they gave a logical explanation for why these rocks seem to sometimes go uphill, because then that would actually, I don't know, contradict everything that they're stating and all. Anyway, nevertheless, NASA, I'm going to say that you're wrong, and I can tell you that with the properties in Mercury, again, given the right scenario, has an atmosphere of its own as well too. Just like ice creates that atmosphere, that extra atmosphere. Mercury, given the right scenario, and my position is that with that, the chemistry and the radiation of the sun, that this object becomes a rock, a ball of energy, an illumination with a field, that given the right chemistry, that this could be a ball of energy, a sun in itself, moved across these desert sands in a way that a path is cleared before it and left behind it. It's my position that these rocks are mimicking something that is happening in space, where rocks are being moved by gravitational pull in space. Now that, NASA, makes better sense than what you have put out there for us to believe, and which is unexplainable. With my scenario, which is actually within the bounds and the limits of that of the laws of physics, I can move this rock from any location in this desert based on the energy levels that are in the ground beneath the passages of this, the energy that's in the rocket, the energy, the elements that's in the rock, the elements that's in the sand, the elements that's in the water that is present, the elements that's in the rain, the elements that's in the ice. And they're all the same, which is Mercury. Mercury is a superconductor of the energy of our sun. Given the right scenario, it's my position that I can move that rock anywhere in this desert. And now, since through my paranormal experience, that we all believe anyway that there are unforeseen forces besides the aliens. Let's forget the aliens, because I'm not big on the alien thing. And besides that too, people, I know what aliens are, and I know what angels are. That's the reason why I'm not giving you the alien theory. You know what I mean? I know what they are, okay? And one day when I'm famous on out there and I'm worldwide and accepted worldwide, I can tell you what your aliens and your and your angels are. Okay, so but until then, I'm going to go at you through the sense of being in the bounds of the laws of physics. This rock, pictured with me, people, as nothing more than an Earth-made meteorite that cannot get airbound, but is being moved groundbound. It's a rock that's being pulled from one location in its existence and traveling on another, just as mimicking that as which is happening in our space with these rocks, meteors, asteroids on the move in our space or in space. These rocks are behaving identical to that out here in the desert, which is phenomenal, which a phenomenal presence of energy is taking place and causing these guys to move in an intelligent way, just as they are moving in an intelligent way in space too, by the way, people. All right. Now, let's get back to existences. What better place in our world for there to be dimensional doorways that I speak of, dimensional doorways, than in the desert, where the spiritual level, the level of spirits would be high. Because what better place with so much death and destruction have taken place and been left behind than here, contained in a ring of containment, an island of separation, right here. People, what better place can any sort of anything being visualized? What better place could it all take place except for right here? Right here, people. Now, imagine with me, if you will, given the right scenario, these rocks being pulled across the desert sand. Imagine similar objects with these magnetic properties. I mean, at what point can this suggest that, can these forces pull airplanes from the sky? Can these forces pull airplanes, boats, anything to a point beyond where they're not under their own control? Can these objects, how far in distance can this energy project itself and pull, this gravitational pull? You see what I'm saying, people? Can an airplane being flown above be magnetically pulled out of the sky? Or directed in a way that where it would crash? These energies which we overlook, and these forces which we overlook, are the explainable things that are logical and explains that which is happening around us. If you take our ancestors and place them out here to witness this, let's go back to the time that the indigenous people were here. Could you imagine them seeing sliding rocks? They would go out there and drop to their knees, and you know what they would do? They would say, God, please, please, this is us. You created us. These are the faces that we evolved from. Again, we look like man right now. And they draw a man out there. This is what we look like now. But look, God, this is what we came from. And they'll show you the monkey. There's the monkey there. Then they'll say, you know, if you don't recognize the monkey, God, then here, there's a whale. God, I mean, that's a recognizable creature that we evolutionized from. And then there's the bird, God. You see what I'm saying? And this is what caused this, because what's beneath there is what inspired it. This movement of these rocks. I'm going to get going with that, people. I'm going to leave you with that. I'm almost heading into an hour, and I'm losing track here. Is there anything else that I wanted to actually say about that? I think I covered all of that. And you know, I was going to include this in there as well too. Then there's the fact, and these are poor copies. This is when my copy was running out. Now I'm going to leave that alone. I was going to go into something else, but I'm going to leave you with that thought there. So, I just want you to see that through my paranormal experience and encounter, I asked in my mind that I wanted to give you this. And in doing so, I have debunked ancient alien theories that this is done by, well, Nazca Lines are done by aliens. Because in less than, I think, 3 or 4 minutes into this video, I showed you that straight lines and a straight path and through mountains can be created by these guys, the rocks. Through a phenomenal occurrence that is happening right now in Death Valley, has happened in the past in Nazca. Okay? So therefore, that debunks ancient alien theories. Now, the geometrical shapes, I'm telling you that Mercury, oh, by the way, I did, talking about Mercury, there is something that I want to add to this. So I said to myself, can Mercury create a vortex? And that's when I was thinking about the crop circle thing. So long and behold, I said to myself, let me Google and see if Mercury can create circles, vortexes. I know that it can create orbs, because if you don't believe me, check out my alien UFOs website, and in there I put in that silver-like orbs that are being seen in our skies are created by balls of mercury, which collect upon themselves and create larger orbs to the point where they become energized, where they can be seen. So that's in a past blog of mine on alien UFOs. So the behavior of Mercury is something else. Imagine Mercury in this rock, Mercury in the sand, Mercury in the water that's beneath the sand, Mercury that's pretty much in the midst of rain, Mercury that's everywhere. Imagine Mercury trying to do what it naturally and instinctively do anyway. You know what Mercury does? It tries to collect upon itself. It tries to unify with itself. So imagine this Mercury chasing each other. I mean, like, look, we can't get, there's something in between. We can't get there. You see what I'm saying, people? Mercury has a behavior to where it tries to become whole again. And it's my position that through this chemistry, all of these phenomena can be explained through the behavior of our Mercury. Now, then we have these other interfering existences, which I believe that interferes with this process. And I'm telling you that I believe wholeheartedly through my paranormal experience and encounter that there is no better place than if death has a face. And in fact, Death Valley, and why is it called Death Valley? You look at it, people. It's called Death Valley. Well, of course, people are dying there, but there is no other place where death would be, and the spiritual sense behind death would be such that of presence than in these locations where life once thrived. And now in its wake is nothing but deserts. Imagine these. Imagine the spiritual sense of death, the presence of death on these locations. What better place for there to be a place that is described or associated to be like that of hell than these places right here, where there are rings of containment, a spiritual jail, where if there were these existences, these intelligent forces behind death, what better place for them to thrive than in this location right here? And then you get a rock with water and coming across there. Could you imagine a force beneath the ground trying to pull that rock? Damn, give me some of that water. Give me some of that water trying to pull. I'm just making a joke of this in light, people. Just, you know what I mean? And they're pulling along the ground, underneath the ground, and trying to get this rock to come down. I want the water out of you. Come on. And then you see some of these triangles, impressions, and stuff that they said is sunken down. Imagine the forces behind all of this, people, and the logic behind all of this. And the good part about all of this is that the laws of physics allows for everything that I'm stating to ring true. And I'm not even a scientist, don't have no science paper on it, mind you, but here I'm sharing it with you on YouTube through my paranormal experience and encounter. Now, this is not just one video. This is one of, I say, almost 150, and I don't have no end. I can do this with anything or everything that's in our world, people. Give you a logical reasoning behind why things are occurring. Now, look at the intelligent minds that are behind describing to you how the Nazca Lines were created. The most intelligent minds, well, I don't know if they're the most intelligent minds of our world, but they're sophisticated minds. They are very sophisticated minds. And they're telling you that vehicles flew in from transportable vehicles, flew in from outer space, and they created these lines. And that explains why these lines were made. Now, you have a person, a lay person, that comes along and tells you that he has a paranormal experience and encounter. He's explaining things to you in ancient art, ancient biblical art, ancient Renaissance art, and he's showing you that, hey, look, this guy is a force to be reckoned with. He's explaining Leonardo da Vinci's painting, Bernini's paintings, and sculptures, Michelangelo's. I mean, this guy is saying things that, grasp our attention. He's drawing images that are in space and nebulae gas matter. This guy has explained that in the exact way that our space is behaving. And this guy keeps coming with these videos that are very remarkable, and I can relate to because they make damn sense. People, this guy did not graduate from high school. This guy dropped out of school in the 10th grade. I later obtained not one but 2 GEDs. You know what I mean? So I believe which I got a 225 score on. But this guy is just like, for the most part, most of us that are of our world. Now, I was stopped in my tracks almost 4 years ago and drawn through a paranormal experience and encounter to become part of this. Everything that I'm describing. That's why you can feel and understand and feel my passion in this. My life is this. I will not stop. People, I could be a 30 or 40 million, $1 billion check can be dropped on me. I would like to think that through my knowledge that I obtained from this, through this paranormal experience and encounter that was gifted to me, I think that I am the most richest man on this planet. Not in the sense of wealth in that sense, but in the sense of wealth and knowledge, because I would like to think that my knowledge exceeds anything of those that were here on our planet before. And in describing all this, because people, I am the one that's bringing this to you. None of them did. Even those that have came close to even understanding it all, they never brought this to you like this. I'm bringing it to you. Gerone Wright is bringing this to you. I'm telling you that everything this is, and everything that I'm suggesting to you, is reality. My name is Gerone Wright. I'm going to end the video with that. The Peruvian lines are explained. The Peruvian lines are nothing more than a phenomenon that actually occurred here in Death Valley. Gliding stones explains the Peruvian lines. These other phenomenons with these larger birds and stuff are nothing more than our ancestors whom witnessed these accounts of these stones and were so moved by it that they did exactly as I described, without me going into detail again. They equated it with being something divine, something that needed to be addressed in a sense, to draw to say, hey, look, we are here. You're drawing on the ground to let us know that you are there, so we're going to draw on the ground to let you know who we are, so you don't bother us, so you don't hurt us. We want to communicate back with you. You're trying to communicate with us, so we're communicating with you. And this would have been the way that these people communicated back then. These cave-like people, these indigenous people of these places, they would have rocks and be drawing on the ground. Look at what kids do in your backyard with the stick. I remember doing it when I was a kid. Remember how we used to draw these things on the ground? Imagine these people seeing these rocks move by themselves, our ancestors. Now this is an occurrence that's been going on through the life of our planet. And now put people here to witness this. What in the hell do you think they would have thought? They responded by making their own drawings over top of it. Look, we want to talk to you. This is what you created. Please don't destroy us. NASA, I hate to tell you, but I gave a better theory than you have. These vortexes were created by this mercury when heated to a certain level. Mercury is what caused this. Mercury is in the rocks. Mercury is in every chemistry that is there, and then there's other byproducts of metal. I mean, parts of metal that are included in this that creates these. And given a scenario where our Earth's gravitational fields, magnetic fields, hit these locations, it causes a phenomenal occurrence that allows for our deserts to come alive in a way that we do not understand until now. Movement occurs and Mercury comes to life. My name is Gerone Wright. You're with me on my Geronification channel, and you can also catch me on Alien UFOs. Okay, Dreams and Experience. I am an alien, so are you. I hope that you like this video. Thank you. I see faces in sand, and I see faces on any surface that an image of such might appear. Okay, so let's explain that away. So you can forget about these little images right here that I've drawn in the sand. Okay, they're just my way of connecting to our ancestral ancestors that actually came before us. Okay, and in doing so, it opens up my mind and brings me into this area in a almost like a telepathic sense. Okay, and I don't have to be there in doing this. All I have to do is just go into my mind to get an understanding of it. And I feel as though that we are all genetically interlinking to that came before us, the beings that came before us, and the knowledge that came before us. And this is how I can continue to make these remarkable videos, through that awareness of us having this ability, which I tapped into in myself. Okay, I like to think of them as multidimensional doorways, and through us we can go anywhere, journey anywhere, in our own minds. All right. Let's go to these Nazca lines. I'm not going to talk. Let's not say these here. I'll go into what expired the larger images. This is the bird that is there in the desert plains there. I believe what inspired these images were these images, these lines, which which no one's paranormally connected and linked. And I can, and in doing so, just follow my explanation of this, and I'm going to give it to you in the best way that I can. I am a layman's person, and these videos are not scripted that I'm making. I'm just winging it, and I'm just putting them out there, and I'm human, so I do make mistakes. Okay, so just bear with me. And I'm not a science expert or not none of the above. That I wish that I had a team, because they were actually narrators, because they would actually help me explain through these videos a whole lot better. Alright, these Nazca lines, I want to explain them to you, how they got there. Okay, it's a phenomenon that happens in our world, and I'm going to come in because I'm going to show you another, and that there is the spider looking creature, and these are other lines that are being made. Now, they say that some of these lines are straight in their path for almost, I think they say up to 6 miles or something like that, or definitely, and they go through mountains. And these lines, some of these lines, suggesting that there was a laser technology or some kind of higher technology that took place that allowed for, perfectly straight lines to be made. Well, let me take you on a common sense journey. I want to take you to Death Valley, where the same thing is actually occurring again in a desert. The sailing rocks. See where I'm going with this already, people? These sailing rocks, which originated from here, you actually see floating on their own, creating their own path of travel, creating their own roads, in other words, paving their own way. I'm going to come up some. Wouldn't it only be logical, people? And just all in a few minutes, I explain the Nazca Lines. Wouldn't it be logical, people, that if this is occurring in Death Valley, in the desert, with rocks, then in Peru, the exact same thing has happened in the past, and because the rocks are not there now and cannot be seen, then this becomes something that can be explained away as alien UFOs, or not alien UFOs, as aliens achieve this feat. Magnetic fields of energy are pulling rocks from other locations, neighboring mountains and neighboring locations across the plains of the deserts, and it explains these straight lines. And in some cases, where there are interruptions in these fields of energies, through that above the surface and that below the surface, we get hello everyone. My name is Jerome Wright, and you're joining me again on my Geronification channel. I have I believe about 150 videos here on my YouTube Geronification channel, and each one discloses a remarkable discovery of mine, in which I'm I'm stating in all of these videos that I am paranormally linked to that of everything ancient in our world and beyond. And and then with this, I'm granted this higher knowledge that allows me to become one with anything that I focus in on, and um, to develop an understanding of how it existed, why it existed, and in which way that I'm, linked to it all. Um, Peru, the Nazca Lines. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to explain to you, and don't mind the little drawings, because as you know that I also have this multi-dimensional sense of awareness and being, and I do not see things in the way that what we describe as being normal people would. When I look at things, I see other things. Meaning, and even in the lines, I'm that guy that looks in the clouds and see faces in the clouds. So I'm also that guy that looks in sand and see faces in the sand. So you would expect that not only do I see faces in the clouds, I can seem to explain. I believe that ancient alien theorists, they have a new series out. I'm describing the Nazca Lines as being that of created by aliens. You have those talking about laser technology, and you're talking about unexplainable straight lines that seem to just appear. And then they talk about the energy that's beneath the ground that has magnetic properties. Well, the answer, there's logical explanations for this. Okay, and but there are these people that insist upon taking your head and spinning it off in a direction in space, away from reality that is actually there before you. It's like there's these people. Even science. I'm going to disprove. Even in NASA, they have something out as well too, relating to this, and I'm going to disprove NASA. Besides disproving the ancient alien theories about aliens created these lines. Alright, and being from outer space created these lines, and they visited us one time or another, and these lines were created. And when I'm done with this video, you're going to be like, wow, you know what I mean? This guy is 100% right. And I mean, was I a fool not to see this myself? And then you're going to be like, why didn't I see this? Alright, but again, people, don't blame yourselves, because I am truly